The Awakening. Commander Sarah Chen jolted awake, her lungs burning as if she'd been holding her breath for too long. The cold hit her first, a bone-deep chill that made her entire body shiver. Through blurred vision, she saw soft blue light pulsing along curved metal walls, creating shadows that danced like underwater reflections. She wasn't supposed to be alive. The last thing she remembered was the emergency evacuation order, the sky above Earth burning crimson as the Void Collective's world-breaker ships positioned themselves in orbit. She had been on the final evacuation vessel, watching through tearful eyes as humanity's homeworld grew smaller in the viewscreen. Life support systems, optimal. Cryogenic revival sequence complete. The AI's voice was gentle, almost maternal. "Welcome back, Commander Chen." Sarah's pod opened with a soft hiss, releasing a cloud of cryo vapor. Her muscles protested as she pushed herself up, decades of muscle memory fighting against centuries of suspended animation. The chamber she found herself in was vast, easily the size of a small stadium, filled with thousands of identical pods arranged in concentric circles. Many were still sealed, their occupants trapped in frozen sleep, but others were opening. Report status. Sarah managed to croak out, her throat dry and raw. Current date is March 15, 3257 CE. Location: Installation 07, Designation Haven. You have been in cryogenic suspension for 1,232 years, 3 months, and 17 days. Over 1,200 years. Sarah felt the weight of that number settle onto her shoulders like a physical burden. Everyone she had known, everyone she had loved, they were all dust now, scattered across the cosmos or buried in Earth's irradiated soil. Movement caught her attention. A tall man with dark skin was emerging from a nearby pod, his military bearing evident even in his current weakened state. Colonel Marcus Webb, Earth Defense Force. He introduced himself, voice rough but steady. "Though I suppose rank doesn't mean much anymore." "It means everything," Sarah replied, surprised by the strength in her own voice. "We're all that's left." More pods were opening now. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the quantum physicist who had theorized the existence of void space travel. Captain Alina Rodriguez, whose guerrilla tactics had bought Earth precious weeks during the final invasion. And dozens more, each chosen for their skills, their knowledge, their determination. The last survivors of humanity. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing a woman Sarah recognized instantly. Admiral Helena Zhao, the architect of humanity's last stand. But this wasn't a real-time transmission. This was a message left centuries ago. "If you're seeing this," the Admiral's recorded image began. "Then Project Phoenix was successful. You are humanity's contingency plan. Our best and brightest, preserved against the day we might need you most." She paused, her holographic eyes seeming to meet each survivor's gaze. "The Void Collective believes they destroyed us. They believe humanity is extinct, our civilization reduced to radioactive ruins on a dead world." The Admiral's expression hardened. "They're wrong. While they celebrated their victory, we were preparing. This installation contains everything you'll need. Weapons beyond anything we had during the war, ships that can traverse the void between stars, and most importantly, knowledge. We learned their weaknesses. We found their vulnerabilities. And now, after centuries of hiding, of waiting, of planning, it's time to strike back." The message continued, explaining the resources at their disposal, the training they would need to undergo, the allies they might find among the stars. But Sarah was already looking at her fellow survivors, seeing the same fire in their eyes that she felt in her heart. They had lost Earth. They had lost everything. But they weren't beaten. Not yet. Humanity had been given a second chance, and they would make it count. As if reading her thoughts, the installation's eye spoke again. "Training protocols are ready to begin. Tactical simulations, combat scenarios, and technical briefings await your attention." The Void Collective has grown complacent in their victory. They do not expect resistance. They do not expect survival. They do not expect revenge. Sarah stood straighter, her voice carrying across the chamber to all the awakened survivors. Then let's show them exactly what humanity is capable of. We didn't come back from the dead just to hide in the shadows. We came back to reclaim what's ours. The others nodded, determination replacing their initial confusion and fear. They were no longer just survivors. They were humanity's vengeance, its rebirth, its future. And somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between the stars, their enemies waited, unaware that their greatest nightmare was about to return. The awakening had begun. Legacy of the Stars. The training chamber hummed with energy as Commander Chen ducked under a plasma bolt, her neural interface translating thought into action faster than human reflexes could manage. The holographic Void Collective soldier flickered and dissipated as her counterstrike found its mark. Simulation complete, announced the AI. Combat efficiency rating, 94.3%, a significant improvement, Commander. Sarah removed her neural interface helmet, watching as sweat dripped onto the polished floor. 3 months had passed since their awakening, and every day brought new revelations about the legacy their ancestors had left them. The neural interfaces alone are beyond anything we had during the war, Dr. Tanaka said, approaching with a tablet displaying combat data. But it's the quantum architecture underneath that fascinates me. These systems aren't just advanced. They're impossible by the standards of our time. Colonel Webb joined them, his own training session complete. We didn't just hide and wait, he observed. We evolved. The question is, how? The answer came later that day. In a sealed chamber they discovered deep within Haven's core. The room was filled with artifacts, pieces of technology that seemed to defy the laws of physics themselves. At its center stood a holographic projection of a star map, showing the current state of the galaxy. These regions in red are under Void Collective control, the AI explained. Approximately 40% of known space. The blue areas represent independent systems, while green indicates potential allies. Sarah studied the map, noting how the Void Collective's territory formed a rough spiral across the galaxy. And the black zones? Unknown, the AI replied. Our long-range sensors cannot penetrate those regions. However, we have detected unusual quantum signatures emanating from several of these areas. Signatures that match the technology you now possess. Dr. Tanaka's eyes widened. We weren't alone. There were others fighting back. The revelation sparked a new phase in their training. While combat simulations continued, the survivors now split their time between physical preparation and understanding the mysterious technology at their disposal. Captain Rodriguez led a team exploring Haven's massive hangars, filled with ships that could bend space itself. Dr. Tanaka and her scientists worked to decode the quantum mathematics behind their weapons and defenses. But it was Commander Chen who made the most startling discovery. During a routine scan of Haven's databases, she found encrypted files that predated the installation itself. The encryption was unlike anything they'd seen. Not human, not Void Collective, but something else entirely. It took the combined efforts of their best minds and Haven's AI 3 weeks to crack the first file. What they found changed everything. This is impossible, Dr. Tanaka whispered, staring at the decoded data. These signatures, they're from Earth, but they're over 10,000 years old. The file contained records of an ancient civilization that had visited Earth long before humanity's recorded history. They had seen potential in the primitive humans they encountered, potential that the Void Collective had also recognized millennia later, potential that had led them to try to destroy humanity before it could become a threat. But humanity had not been defenseless. The ancient visitors had left behind guardians, artificial intelligences buried deep within Earth's crust, watching and waiting. When the Void Collective attacked, these guardians activated, transmitting crucial data to secret facilities across the galaxy. We thought we were starting from scratch, Colonel Webb said, his voice filled with wonder. But we were being protected all along. Everything in Haven, The quantum tech, the neural interfaces, even our cryogenic preservation, it's all based on their designs. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the true scope of their mission. They weren't just fighting to avenge Earth. They were fulfilling a destiny 10,000 years in the making. The AI's voice interrupted their contemplation. Warning. Long-range sensors detect Void Collective Patrol approaching outer system. Estimated arrival. 6 hours. Sarah straightened, her mind already racing through combat scenarios. How many ships? 3 destroyers, standard patrol configuration. They are not aware of our presence. The survivors exchanged looks. They had spent months training, learning, preparing. Now it was time to put that preparation to the test. Dr. Tanaka, are the quantum drives ready? Sarah asked. The physicist nodded. The stealth systems are fully operational. They'll never see us coming. Captain Rodriguez, what's the status of your strike teams? Ready and eager, Commander. We've been practicing ship-to-ship combat scenarios for weeks. Colonel Webb stepped forward. This is ahead of schedule, but we're as ready as we'll ever be. The question is, do we engage? Sarah turned to the star map, watching the red dots of the Void Collective Patrol ships slowly moving closer. Their ancestors had spent centuries preparing them for this moment. The ancient guardians had given them the tools they needed. Now it was time to show the galaxy that humanity wasn't extinct. It was evolving. Prepare for combat operations, she ordered. Let's introduce ourselves to the neighborhood. As Haven's massive chambers came alive with activity, Sarah felt a fierce pride in her fellow survivors. They had lost everything, but that loss had forged them into something new, something stronger, something that the Void Collective wasn't prepared to face. The legacy of the stars was about to bear fruit, and humanity's vengeance would shake the galaxy to its foundations. The first strike. The bridge of the Nightshade hummed with barely contained energy as the stealth ship sliced through void space. Commander Chen stood at the tactical display, watching the 3 red dots representing the Void Collective patrol ships. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Quantum drive spooling down, reported Lieutenant Park from the helm. Transitioning to normal space in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted, space itself seeming to fold as the Nightshade emerged behind an asteroid, perfectly positioned to strike. The Void Collective ships, massive, angular vessels that resembled black crystalline shards, continued their patrol route, oblivious to the threat. All teams, report status. Sarah commanded through the neural interface. Strike Team Alpha ready, Colonel Webb's voice echoed in her mind. Boarding pods primed. Strike Team Beta in position. Captain Rodriguez confirmed. Ready to deploy ECM packages. Weapons systems optimal, Dr. Tanaka added from her station. Quantum disruptors aligned. Sarah took a deep breath, remembering all their training, all their preparation. Execute Operation Phoenix. The Nightshade's stealth field dropped as dozens of tiny objects launched from its hull. The ECM packages activated simultaneously, flooding the region with electromagnetic chaos that blinded the Void Collective sensors. Before the enemy could react, quantum disruptor beams lanced out, their impossible energies tearing holes in the fabric of space itself. The lead destroyer's shields flickered and failed, its crystalline hull cracking under the assault. The other 2 ships began to turn, their own weapons charging, but they were too slow. Boarding pods latched onto their hulls like metallic parasites, cutting torches burning through armor plating. This is impossible. A Void Collective transmission cut through their comms. The humans are extinct. We destroyed them centuries ago. You should have made sure we stayed dead. Sarah replied, her voice cold. Bridge is yours, Lieutenant Park. I'm joining the boarding party. She sprinted to the deployment bay where her combat suit waited. The neural interface merged with her consciousness as the armor sealed around her, transforming her into something more than human. The quantum technology that their ancestors had left them wasn't just advanced, it was transformative. The boarding pod's interior was cramped but efficient. Colonel Webb's team had already secured their initial entry point, and Sarah joined them as they pushed deeper into the enemy vessel. The Void Collective's interior architecture was as alien as their ship's exteriors, all sharp angles and crystalline surfaces that seemed to absorb light. "Contact," Webb shouted as shadows detached themselves from the walls. The Void Collective soldiers were tall, spindly creatures with too many limbs, their bodies covered in living armor that shifted and flowed like liquid obsidian. But humanity had studied their weaknesses for centuries. Quantum disruptor rifles fired, their beams passing through the living armor as if it didn't exist. The alien soldiers fell, their bodies dissolving into clouds of dark particles. "Commander," Dr. Tanaka's voice came through the neural link. "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the ship's core. They're trying to initiate some kind of quantum cascade. They're going to self-destruct," Sarah realized. "All teams, fall back to secondary objectives. Download everything you can from their databases." As her team fought their way back to the boarding pod, Sarah noticed something strange. The ship's interior was changing, the crystalline surfaces developing patterns she'd seen before in Haven's ancient files. "Dr. Tanaka, are you seeing this?" "Yes," the physicist replied, her voice tense with excitement. "The patterns match the quantum signatures we found in those encrypted files. The Void Collective didn't develop this technology themselves. They stole it, just like they tried to steal Earth." A massive explosion rocked the destroyer as its quantum core began to collapse. Sarah's team barely made it back to their pod before the ship started to break apart. The other two vessels were in similar states, their crews choosing destruction over capture. But it didn't matter. They had what they came for. Hours later, back aboard the Nightshade, Sarah studied the data they'd recovered. The Void Collective's databases had contained more than tactical information. They held the locations of other human survivor colonies, hidden across the galaxy like Haven. They weren't alone. "Look at this," Dr. Tanaka pointed to a star chart. "These quantum signatures we detected in the black zones. They're not random. They form a pattern, like they're all connected to something bigger." "The ancient civilization," Sarah murmured. "They didn't just leave us technology. They left us a map." Colonel Webb studied the data with narrowed eyes. "The Void Collective is afraid," he observed, "not just of us, but of what we might discover. They know something about these ancients, something they don't want us to find out." Sarah felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders again. Their first strike had been successful, but it was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, scattered across the stars, other humans waited to be found. And beyond them, in the mysterious black zones, lay answers to questions that were older than humanity itself. "Send word to Haven," she ordered. "Tell them to begin awakening the rest of the sleepers. We're going to need every survivor we can get." The Nightshade's quantum drive hummed to life, preparing to take them back to Haven. But Sarah's mind was already racing ahead, planning their next moves. The Void Collective had thought humanity was finished, but they had just learned otherwise. The galaxy was about to remember why you should never corner a human. They didn't just survive. They came back stronger. Seeds of revolution. The marketplace on Helios Station was a riot of colors and sounds, aliens of 100 different species conducting their business under the watchful eyes of Void Collective enforcers. Sarah moved through the crowd in her holographic disguise, appearing to all observers as a member of the silicon-based crystalline consortium, one of the few species the Collective trusted. "Target spotted," Colonel Webb's voice whispered through their quantum-encrypted neural link. "Third level, near the atmospheric processors." Sarah's enhanced vision zoomed in on the location. Their contact, a tall, serpentine creature with iridescent scales, was precisely where intelligence suggested they would be. The Nexians had once been a proud spacefaring race before the Void Collective reduced them to servants. Now they were perfect allies for what humanity had planned. "Approaching now," Sarah subvocalized. "Stand by." She made her way to the atmospheric processors, pretending to examine the machinery. The Nexian merchant watched her approach, their multifaceted eyes revealing nothing. When Sarah was close enough, she transmitted a brief quantum pulse, a signal that couldn't be detected by conventional sensors. The Nexian's eyes widened slightly. The dead walk, they whispered in their sibilant language. The prophecies were true. We need to talk, Sarah replied in the same tongue. Somewhere private. Hours later, in a secured chamber deep within Haven, Sarah stood before a holographic display showing dozens of new potential allies. The Nexians weren't the only ones who had suffered under the Collective's rule. The Auroran Conclave, the Quantum Nomads, the Silicon Drift, all had reasons to hate their oppressors. The network is growing, Dr. Tanaka reported, manipulating the display to show a web of connections spreading across the galaxy. Every species we contact knows of others who might join us, and they all tell similar stories about the ancient civilization. Captain Rodriguez pointed to a cluster of unusual readings. These quantum signatures are appearing more frequently. Whatever the ancients left behind, it's becoming active, responding to something. Responding to us, Colonel Webb suggested, to humanity's return. The door chimed as their newest ally entered, Ambassador Cathal of the Nexian Remnant. The serpentine alien moved with fluid grace, their scales shifting colors in the light. My people have confirmed the locations of 3 major Void Collective manufacturing centers, Cathal announced. Heavily defended, but vulnerable to the kind of quantum attacks you demonstrated in the Helios raid. Sarah nodded. Since their first strike 3 months ago, they had conducted dozens of hit-and-run operations against collective targets. Each success brought new allies, new resources, new intelligence. But they needed more. What about the other human colonies? She asked. Have your networks found any sign of them? Cathal's scales rippled with excitement. Better. We found one of their representatives. They'd been hiding among my people for decades, waiting for a signal just like yours. The chamber door opened again, revealing a human woman with gray-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much. Julia Chen, she introduced herself. Though I suppose you'd know me better as Julia Chen Martinez. Your grandmother was my sister, Commander. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. Family. After all these centuries, after everything they'd lost, she had family. Julia's story poured out. How her colony had awakened decades earlier, how they'd built their own network of allies and safe houses throughout collective space. They had been waiting, watching, preparing for the right moment to strike. But we needed a catalyst, Julia explained. Something to unite all the disparate resistance groups. When we detected your quantum attacks, we knew the time had finally come. Dr. Tanaka, who had been analyzing data from their latest raids, suddenly straightened. Commander, you need to see this. I've been comparing the quantum signatures from all our encounters with the Collective. There's a pattern in their responses, something that doesn't make sense unless. She manipulated the holographic display, combining hundreds of data points into a single image. What emerged was a map of sorts, but not of physical space. It showed quantum connections, lines of probability and possibility stretching across the galaxy. They're scared, Sarah realized. Not just of us, but of what we might activate. The ancient civilization didn't just leave us weapons and technology. They left us a key. A key to what? Colonel Webb asked. Before anyone could respond, Haven's AI interrupted. Alert. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Scale and complexity exceed all previous recordings. The holographic display erupted with new data points as quantum signatures began appearing across the galaxy. In void collective space, in neutral territory, in the mysterious black zones, everywhere, ancient systems were awakening. They're all connected, Dr. Tanaka breathed. The ancient civilization. They built a quantum network spanning the entire galaxy, and we just turned it on. Cathal's scales had turned a deep blue of religious awe. The prophecies spoke of this. The return of the Guardians chosen, the awakening of the great network, the fall of the usurpers who steal powers they do not understand. Sarah looked around at her gathered allies, human, and alien alike. They had started with revenge as their goal, but this was becoming something much bigger. The Void Collective hadn't just attacked Earth. They had tried to prevent humanity from fulfilling its destiny as inheritors of the ancient civilization's legacy. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered. "Contact every resistance cell, every allied species, every human colony. Tell them it's time." As the chamber erupted into activity, Sarah studied the quantum map with its awakening nodes of power. Somewhere out there was the key to not just defeating the Void Collective, but to understanding humanity's true place in the galaxy. The seeds of revolution had been planted. Now it was time for them to bloom. Reclamation. The Sol system looked different after 12 centuries. Earth's once blue oceans had turned gray-brown, its continents scarred by ancient weapons. But it was still home, and humanity had come to take it back. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Resurrection, Haven's flagship, watching as the combined fleet emerged from quantum space. Human vessels from every survivor colony fought alongside ships of their alien allies. The serpentine Nexians, the crystalline Aurorans, the energy-based quantum nomads. Thousands of ships united against the Void Collective's tyranny. "Multiple enemy contacts," Lieutenant Park announced. "The Collective is mobilizing their entire defensive fleet." Through the neural interface, Sarah could feel the quantum network humming with power. Since its awakening, they had discovered its true purpose, not just communication or weapons, but a tool for reshaping reality itself. The ancient civilization had built it as a gift for their successors, waiting until humanity was ready to claim its inheritance. "All ships, battle formations," she ordered. "Begin the sequence." Across the fleet, quantum drives activated in perfect synchronization. The ancient civilization's final gift wasn't just technology, it was understanding. Understanding of how the universe really worked, of the quantum threads that bound all things together, of humanity's unique ability to perceive and manipulate these forces. The Void Collective had stolen this technology, using it without comprehension. But humanity had been chosen, prepared, guided over millennia to become its true inheritors. Collective ships launching dimensional disruptors. Colonel Webb reported from his tactical station. "They're trying to collapse our quantum field." "Let them try," Dr. Tanaka replied, her fingers dancing across her console. "They don't understand what they're dealing with." The enemy fleet was massive, crystalline ships that absorbed light, making them look like holes in space itself. Their weapons could tear reality apart, but they were fighting with stolen tools they barely understood against the very species they were designed for. "Signal from the enemy flagship," Captain Rodriguez announced. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." A hologram materialized, a Void Collective elder, its form constantly shifting between states of matter. "You cannot comprehend what you meddle with," it stated. "The Ancient One's legacy is too dangerous for any single species to control. We contained it to protect the galaxy." "You contained it to protect yourselves," Sarah replied. "You knew that when humanity reached its potential, we would become something you couldn't control. That's why you attacked Earth. But you forgot one thing. Humans don't stay down. We evolve. We adapt. We overcome." She cut the transmission and opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, initiate primary sequence." "Dr. Tanaka, activate the network." Across the galaxy, ancient quantum nodes pulsed with power. The network wasn't just a weapon or a tool. It was a key to understanding the universe in ways the Void Collective never could. And humanity, through centuries of guided evolution and preparation, had become the perfect interface. Reality itself seemed to shiver as the quantum network reached full power. The Void Collective ships fired, their dimensional weapons trying to tear holes in spacetime. But where their attacks should have shattered reality, they found it reinforced, strengthened by the very power they had tried to steal. "They're trapped," Dr. Tanaka announced. "The network is containing their quantum fields. They can't escape." Sarah felt the power flowing through her neural interface, through every human in the fleet. This was what they had been preparing for across millennia. Not just revenge, but reclamation of their home, their destiny, and their place in the universe. Final sequence, she ordered. Let's show them what humanity can really do. The quantum network pulsed one final time. Reality rippled around the Void Collective fleet as their stolen technology turned against them. Their ships began to dissolve, not destroyed but transformed, their very essence rewritten by the power they had tried to contain. When it was over, Earth's orbit was clear. The Void Collective's mighty armada had been reduced to harmless particles. Their threat ended not by violence, but by the very forces of creation they had failed to understand. Status of the quantum network? Sarah asked. Stable and expanding, Dr. Tanaka replied. The ancient civilization. They didn't just leave us weapons. They left us the tools to rebuild, to heal. Sarah looked at the scared face of Earth below. Already, she could see the quantum network beginning its work, its energy seeping into the damaged biosphere. It would take time, but they could restore their homeworld. And not just Earth. Every world the Void Collective had damaged could be healed. Ambassador Hill slithered onto the bridge, their scales shimmering with joy. The prophecies spoke true. The Guardians chosen have returned, and with them, the power to remake what was broken. Colonel Webb studied the tactical display, showing Void Collective forces retreating across the galaxy as the quantum network spread. They're running. All of them. Let them, Sarah said. Let them tell everyone what they saw here. Let them remember that humanity didn't just survive. We became what we were always meant to be. The neural interface hummed with possibilities as Sarah looked out at her home system. Humanity had lost Earth once, but they had gained the stars. They had faced extinction, but emerged stronger. They had been chosen not just to survive, but to thrive, to grow, to lead. Send word to all colonies, all allies, she ordered. Tell them it's time to come home. We have a galaxy to rebuild. The quantum network pulsed with potential, ready to help humanity shape a new future, not just for themselves, but for all species who sought peace and understanding. They had started this journey seeking revenge, but they had found something far greater, their destiny. Earth's scared surface glowed below, already beginning to heal under the quantum network's influence. Humanity had returned, not just as survivors or conquerors, but as guardians, inheritors, and guides for a new age in the galaxy's history.